When did you realize you're an artist?
I played the cello, it seems practically my entire life. Since I was 6 years old, my grandmother provided the first instrument, and my parents were very encouraging, and my brother played the piano, and we were required to perform together every evening after dinner whenever we had guests, and so that was a very important thing. I was surrounded by art. My mother's a designer, a painter and photographer. My father a sculptor and architect. Involved in all these things my entire life. They passed in front of me. There was just always the creative process going on around me. But growing up and playing the cello, you aren't necessarily encouraged to find that creative side, to improvise, to explore other possibilities of music making besides the classical canon. And I would say that it was after finishing college and taking a year off and getting involved in contemporary music, much more involved in the creative process, and then going out to get my master's at Cal Arts, the sort of anything goes kind of school. I was about halfway through. I was probably 23 years old. One day I just realized, probably on stage in the midst of playing, that this was it, that I knew how I could be personally creative using the tools and techniques that I developed and have my own voice for the first time. And maybe it had been there, but I hadn't known how to pull it out, how to discover it, how to harness it and then share it with people. And so then everything just followed. I got very involved in improvisation and composition and working with Asian music and many different kinds of things. But it just, that click one day caught me by surprise. And hopefully everything led up to it and served me well. So,
what keeps you going? What inspires you?
What keeps me going is, particularly in relationship to the cello, the knowledge that each morning I can wake up and discover something new that wasn't there before. I have this idea of inventing new instruments. They're all played on the cello. There's something to discover. I'm very involved, for example, in Asian music. And I know that maybe sometime by accident I'll put my fingernail against the string in a way that makes a sound that I didn't have yesterday. And so I'm always driven by that sense of possibility of discovery on any given day.
What artists do you love?
Well, the artists that I need most are singers, particularly. Everybody says that cello is the most vocal of all instruments. And so I listen to Caruso, I listen to Maria Callas, and I listen for that little shading, a little color in the voice, some kind of thing which will give me an idea about shaping cello sound. There are many traditional Asian players of the Chinese zither, for example, Guqin and so on, that again really open my eyes to sound. And I'm very interested in visual art. I was just in Philadelphia and saw the show of Barnett Newman and this minimalism, these simple colors, and then the so-called zip down the center of the page. It turns out he was fascinated by music. So I come home and that gives me weeks of thought. It stimulates my imagination of how I can respond to that.
Tell us about making Oakland your home.
It's been something like a year and a half that I've been in Oakland. I moved to the Bay Area in general because of the possibilities of pursuing my interests in electronic music, in collaboration with Asian musicians, in working with visual artists. In Oakland, I found very interesting painters and people working in the galleries and all sorts of music. They're great places for sort of the underground music, the free improvisation. And I like the feeling of the action of a city but I live in the quiet suburban hills, which is very nice. And I certainly think a lot of my feeling here has to do with discovering the ship and Oakland being the kind of place where permission is given for these kinds of creative things.
Tell us about Artship recordings.
Well, one day I was lucky enough to be invited aboard the ship and to see people on it and using it and what the spaces were like. And I immediately thought, what a wonderful backdrop for music, for two reasons. First of all, the bizarre acoustics. Even now as we're speaking, an airplane is going by. The sounds of the ocean, the waves, sailboats, ships, Coast Guard helicopters landing, the gangplank creaking, which you can hear now as the tide goes down. The sonic backdrop is what I related to. And also the richness of the acoustic spaces, these giant metal cargo holds and so on. So I thought, what we should try and do is get these little audio snapshots. Can we capture the essence of being on the ship with a recording, let musicians come aboard and just respond to the space in any way they see appropriate.
Describe how the recordings look like.
The discs are 3-inch so-called mini CDs, holding only 21 minutes of music. What I wanted was a product, if you will, that was easy to distribute, easy for people to carry around in their shirt pocket, and also was really about this kind of snapshot, not a full, I think you were the one who said, sometimes you don't want to hear 3 whole symphonies on a CD. Sometimes you want a little taste of what a musician is doing. And I wanted people to come on the ship and have a chance to respond musically without needing to create something epic, without having to compose something in advance. And so the actual recordings have been as short as 12 minutes, and there's somebody who did 21 minutes and 5 seconds, and I had to nick a little bit off the end to make it work. I thought that the covers should be like postage stamps. So each one has a number based on the order in which it was recorded, and then it's postmarked with the date on which it was recorded. Then I have the name of the artist, their instrument, and an elevation of the ship with a little colored dot which shows which room they recorded in, and then it says Art Deco Salon or Cargo Hold number 9, which it turns out we invented, or Electrical Transformer Room number 3, or right here behind you, the deck gear locker.
What is your wish, your heart's desire?
I think the reason that I stay involved with art and with music and this kind of self-expression is to try and reach people. And there are many different ways that one can do that, but this process of communication is something that I look for each day. Can I expose somebody new to the kind of music I do? Can I share it with somebody new? Can I get a reaction from somebody, provoking some response, hearing what people think, and the whole idea of opening up some new level of thought, of discourse, of interchange. And I think that everything I do artistically, although a lot of it, of course, is at home in the practice studio, is oriented towards opening it up and making it available to people. And I'm not going to be a top-selling artist, but hopefully somebody who can go and play small concerts and put out small CDs and have that chance to have a dialogue with an audience. So that's why I'm here on the ship, and that's why I do all these things that I do.
Great, thank you.